Chapter 24 of the Riddle of the Sands. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Gesine. The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers. Chapter 24 Finesse. The door of a room on the ground floor was opened to us by a manservant. As we entered, the rattle of a piano stopped, and a hot wave of mingled scent and cigar smoke struck my nostrils. The first thing I noticed over Davies's shoulder, as he preceded me into the room, was a woman, the source of the perfume, I decided, turning round from the piano as he passed it and staring him up and down with a disdainful familiarity that I at once hotly resented. She was in evening dress, pronounced in cut and colour, had a certain exuberant beauty, not wholly ascribable to nature, and a notable lack of breeding. Another glance showed me Dollmann, putting down a liqueur glass of brandy, and rising from a low chair with something of a start, and another von Brüning, lying back in a corner of a sofa, smoking. On the same sofa, vis-à-vis to him, was, yes, of course it was, Clara Dollmann. But how their surroundings alter people, I caught myself thinking. For the rest, I was aware that the room was furnished with ostentation, and was stuffy, with stove-engendered warmth. Davies steered a straight course for Dollmann, and shook his hand with business-like resolution. Then he tacked across to the sofa, abandoning me in the face of the enemy. "Mr. " said Dollmann. "Carruthers," I answered distinctly. "I was with Davies in the boat just now, but I don't think he introduced me. And now he has forgotten again," I added, dryly, turning towards Davies, who, having presented himself to Fräulein Dollmann, was looking feebly from her to von Brüning, the picture of tongue-tied awkwardness. The Commander nodded to me, and stretched himself with a yawn. "Von Brüning told me about you," said Dollmann, ignoring my allusion, "but I was not quite sure of the name. No, it was not an occasion for formalities, was it?" He gave a sudden, mirthless laugh. I thought him flushed and excitable, yet, seen in a normal light, he was in some respects a pleasant surprise, the remarkable conformation of the head giving an impression of intellectual power and restless, almost insanely restless, energy. "What need?" I said. "I have heard so much about you from Davies, and Commander von Brüning, that we seem to be old friends already." He shot a doubtful look at me, and a diversion came from the piano. "And now, for heaven's sake," cried the lady of the perfume, "let us join Herr Böhme at supper." "Let me present you to my wife," said Dollmann. So this was the stepmother, unmistakably German, I may add. I made my bow, and underwent much the same sort of frank scrutiny as Davies, only that it was rather more favourable to me, and ended in a carmine smile. There was a general movement and further introductions. Davies was led to the stepmother, and I found myself confronting the daughter with quickened pulses, and a sudden sense of added complexity in the issues. I had, of course, made up my mind to ignore our meeting of yesterday, and had assumed that she would do the same. And she did ignore it. We met as utter strangers, nor did I venture, for other eyes were upon us, to transmit any sign of intelligence to her. But the next moment I was wondering if I had not fallen into a trap. She had promised not to tell, but under what circumstances? I saw the scene again, the misty flats, the spruce little sailboat and its sweet young mistress, fresh as a dewy flower, but blanched and demoralised by a horrid fear, appealing to my honour so to act that we three should never meet again, promising to be silent, but as much in her own interest as ours, and under that implied condition which I had only equivocally refused. The condition was violated, not by her fault or ours, but violated. She was free to help her father against us, and was she helping him? What troubled me was the change in her, that she—how can I express it without offence?—was less in discord with her surroundings than she should have been; that in dress, pose, and manner, as we exchanged some trivialities, she was too near reflecting the style of the other woman; that, in fact, she in some sort realised my original conception of her, so brutally avowed to Davies, so signally, as I had thought, falsified. In the sick perplexity that this discovery caused me, I dare say I looked as foolish as Davies had done, and more so, for the close heat of the room and its tainted atmosphere, succeeding so abruptly to the wholesome nip of the outside air, were giving me a faintness which this moral check lessened my power to combat. Von Brüning's face wore a sneering smile that I winced under, and turning, I found another pair of eyes fixed on me, those of Herr Böhme, whose squat figure had appeared at a pair of folding doors leading to an adjoining room. Napkin in hand, he was taking in the scene before him with fat benevolence, but exceeding shrewdness. I instantly noticed a faint red wheal relieving the ivory of his bald head, and I had suffered too often in the same quarter myself to mistake its origin, namely, our cabin doorway. "This is the other young explorer, Böhme," said von Brüning. "Herr Davies kidnapped him a month ago, and bullied and starved him into submission. They'll drown together yet. I believe his sufferings have been terrible." "His sufferings are over," I retorted. "I've mutinied, deserted, haven't I, Davies?" I caught Davies gazing with solemn gaucherie at Miss Dollmann. "Oh, what?" he stammered. I explained in English. "Oh, yes, Carruthers has to go home," he said, in his vile lingo. No one spoke for a moment, and even von Brüning had no persiflage ready. "Well, are we never going to have supper?" said Madame, impatiently, and with that we all moved towards the folding doors. There had been little formality in the proceedings so far, and there was still less in the supper room. Böhme resumed his repast with appetite, and the three of us sat down apparently at random, though an underlying method was discernible. As it worked out, Dollmann was at one end of the small table, with Davies on his right and Böhme on his left; Frau Dollmann at the other, with me on her right and von Brüning on her left. The seventh personage, Fräulein Dollmann, was between the Commander and Davies on the side opposite to me. No servants appeared, and we waited on ourselves. I have a vague recollection of various excellent dishes, and a distinct one of abundance of wine. Someone filled me a glass of champagne, and I confess that I drained it with honest avidity, blessing the craftsman who coaxed forth the essence, the fruit that harboured it, the sun that warmed it. "Why are you going so suddenly?" said von Brüning to me across the table. "Didn't I tell you we had to call here for letters? I got mine this morning, and among others a summons back to work. Of course I must obey." I found myself speaking in a frigid silence. The annoying thing was that there were two letters, and if I had only come here 2 days sooner I should have got the first, which gave me an extension. "You are very conscientious. How will they know?" "Ah, but the second's rather urgent." There was another uncomfortable silence, broken by Dollmann. "By the way, Herr Davies," he began, "I ought to apologise to you for—" This was no business of mine, and the less interest I took in it the better, so I turned to Frau Dollmann and abused the fog. "Have you been in the harbour all day?" she asked. "Then how was it you did not visit us? Was Herr Davies so shy?" Curiosity or malice? "Quite the contrary. But I was," I answered coldly. "You see, we knew Herr Dollmann was away, and we really only called here to get my letters; besides, we did not know your address." I looked at Clara.